Welcome to today's video. I'm going to talk about how to date mindfully so you give yourself the best chance to find someone who can commit to you and be with you long term. For those of you who are new, I'm Casey Lepper, and after more than 10 years in private practice working with individuals and couples, I have decided to create a YouTube channel that I get to share a lot of the things that I talk about my clients with in session. And so all of these resources are just to help you live your best life, mind, body, soul, and relationships. Okay, so let's talk about dating. I know that dating can bring a lot of feelings, a lot of hesitancy and conflict and fear, because the truth is it's hard to know when we're starting to date someone if they're going to be that ideal partner that's going to last us for life. So after working with lots of individuals and couples around dating and being in my own marriage for 10 years, I want to share a couple key points that you can be aware of when you're starting to date. And what I hope this does for you is it provides an understanding and a framework about what you need to know, what you need to prepare in order to date mindfully. Not just that, but what key ingredients are in long, satisfying relationships. So let's get started. First, I want to talk about self-awareness. If you're going into dating and you have no idea what you want, what values you want in a person, what you want your shared life to look like, then you're going into it blind. So think about going into like a bargain store and not knowing at all what you're looking for. There's so many products that it can be completely overwhelming, and oftentimes we leave without getting anything. So when you're being intentional and mindful, you need to go into the dating experience knowing what's really important to you. So this first part is about self-awareness. What do you want your shared life to look like? What values do you want both of you to prioritize? What's really, really important to you? So one of my clients is really connected to her Jewish faith. She really, really loves being able to share the cultural and religious application of Judaism into her life. So she knew when she was dating that was going to be a really key filter, that unless they were Jewish, she did not see herself being in their relationship long term. And so it's really helpful to know these pieces for you. When I was dating, I was really, really clear about what I wanted. I wanted someone who prioritized their self-development and their health on all levels. So I remember the first date my husband and I went on, I told him I wanted someone who, even if they drank some wine at night, would wake up really early and work out, because that was really, really important to my lifestyle. So you have to ask yourself, what parts of your lifestyle are really important to share? Now, some people really love their independence, and that's okay. Some people might lean a little too codependent, and that can be damaging. But what we really want in all healthy relationships is this medium zone called interdependence. It's where both people know it's really important to them and they have areas that they share. Now, someone might be happy sharing 50% of those areas. Some person might only need to share the top 5 of those areas. So you have to be really, really mindful when you're going into dating. What areas do you need the other person to care about? Which areas aren't so important? So understanding your values, understanding your life goals, understanding your interests. Which ones are you okay being really independent in, and which ones do you want to share? In general, paint the picture of what your ideal relationship looks like. So what a lot of people do when they're going into the dating process, they start with what the other person looks like or their job. Now, I understand attraction and chemistry is important, and we'll get to that. But right now, just create the vision of what a shared, ideal, beautiful life with someone looks like. Are kids involved? Do you both work from home? Can you travel together? Paint that picture, and you're almost like reverse engineering it. So you're writing down, I want someone who has the financial freedom and time flexibility to be able to take 2 weeks off every 3 months. I want someone who really prioritizes their faith in God and who creates space in their life for them to do so. I want someone who takes care of themselves on a creative level, who has a creative outlet and a hobby that they really put a lot of time to. Being aware of the things that are deal breakers, the things that you can be more flexible about, and then the gray zone of what you just don't know. So, one metaphor that I use often with clients is think about that first car you ever had. And now, why did you want that car? Maybe someone really cool in school drove it. You just connected to that certain body style. There's something about that car that pulled you in. If you were able to have any sort of agency or decision making of your first car. As you drove that car for a couple of years, you probably noticed things that you really liked and the things that you didn't like. Now, this is dating. The more we date, the more we're understanding about what things are actually really important to us and what things we'd like to change. So as you're going through the experience of dating, you're always going to be updating this list. Make sure after every dating experience, you're actually reflecting, now, what did I really enjoy about that person? What surprised me about that person? What did I think was important that is actually not important? So this is the self-awareness piece. This is like the preparation. This is understanding what to be on alert for when you're going on that date or you're communicating with a person that is a potential dating partner. Now, when you think about a long-term relationship, there's a couple of key aspects that really need to be there. I call them the 4 C's. So the first one is compatibility. This is where you'll know, oh, we're compatible. We have similar enough interests. We want to spend our weekends similar ways. We think about our life goals in a similar fashion. Now, again, you can decide how important is your political ideas. Do those need to be in alignment for you to feel compatible? We need to have a certain level of compatibility. Otherwise, we're too different to be able to actually create a life together that has any sort of interdependence or overlap. So compatibility is recognizing that your life goals, your aspirations, your interests, your values, your morals, your ethics are compatible with the other person. It doesn't have to overlap 100%, but enough to where you know we are compatible to create this life together. The second C is communication. So again, communication is really important. And I have a whole video about, level 1 of communication and the things that you need to know. If you want to dive into that, you can click here. It'll be linked for you. And, in that you recognize that all relationships are built on good communication. So if communication's not flowing, conflict's going to happen, misunderstandings is going to happen, and it usually takes a toll on connection, intimacy, and long-term trust. So communication is really important. That being said, people have different things they like to talk about. And so if you like to talk about philosophy and big spiritual ideas and, what you plan for the future and you're a dreamer and you're with someone who doesn't like to communicate about that, that might be a really big consideration for you moving forward. So again, some people might not need that from their significant other, but that's why the preparation, the self-awareness stage is so important. Know what's important to you. So how we communicate is different. Some people are emotional communicators. Some people internally process for a long time, and then they like to communicate in more controlled ways. Essentially, regardless of your communication style, you want to know that you can convey information and express yourself in a safe way to your partner and that they're going to empathize, seek to understand, be curious, and truly listen to you. Those are the main tenets of good communication. Now we have consideration. So consideration is like the rules that we put on relationships. So what do you really care about a relationship looking like? What does commitment mean to you? What does mutual respect look like to you? What does support look like to you? Knowing that you have compatibility with consideration is really important, because if I like to communicate regularly and I'm dating someone who doesn't really value communication and isn't seeking to shift because they're considering my needs, I might have something so foundational to what's necessary in a relationship to me that I won't be able to move through that. And so, consideration again is, what does a relationship look like to you? What aspects are really important? Some people don't care at all about labels. Some people are totally okay with open relationships. These are the things that you want to be aware of. How can someone show you that they love you or support you or are committed to you? Figure out what those are and make sure that you're on the same page about that. Now, the fourth C is chemistry. Chemistry is the energy, is the life force, is kind of the magic that allows all of these other aspects to flow. Now, you can have good communication, consideration, and compatibility, but without chemistry, you may never get that storybook, that sort of like passion, that intensity that you might or might not want. So, chemistry is the lubricant. It allows everything to be easier. With chemistry, usually people have better communication. They usually are in alignment when it comes to consideration, and they're usually more compatible. And so I know a lot of couples who don't have chemistry, that if you were to put them on a dance floor and ask them to dance, they would be a mess. They would step on each other's toes. And in some cases, they've built a life that's so successful. Maybe they've had kids, and it's good enough that that lack of chemistry is okay. Some people want that chemistry. They want that sort of passion, that energy, that kind of life force. And so even, think about this outside of dating. When you meet someone, sometimes you just have a rhythm and you just have this dynamic that's almost like baked in, and it just like allows life, conversation, everything to unfold in a really seamless way. And so going into any dating experience, chemistry is something that you'll know immediately. Now, there's a caveat to that because sometimes people expect it to be like that, and it can be. But if someone's going into a dating experience and they're too in their mind, or they're analyzing, or they're logical, they're not in their body, maybe they've had past trauma or pain with relationships. If there's any sort of wounding to the heart or over mentalism, it's kind of hard to know this immediately. And so if you've gone through any of those situations, if you know you're a little shell shocked when you go into the dating experience, or a little too mental, a little too in your mind, and a little closed off from your heart, then just give yourself some more time to really relax with the person and get that energy going. And so sometimes we have a little baggage coming into it, and it's just being aware of that and then giving more opportunity to prove yourself wrong. As always, our belief systems, our thoughts, and our mind kind of gets in the way from seeing what's really there. And so sometimes we're pulled to what's familiar, even if it's not the healthiest situation for us. But that's why I say self-awareness is the biggest piece of this. And then consider communication, compatibility, consideration, and chemistry. And seek to understand how those four fit for you. And then when you find a person who has that, similar framework, the similar values, interests, life aspirations, goals, if it's similar enough, then you're going to feel that match. And so again, think about when you're shopping for something. Do you know what it is that you want? And when you know what you want, it's so much easier to find it. We can be so distracted, so lost, and so confused if we haven't done the internal work and self-reflection to understand what it is that we want. So I hope you found some value out of this. I know dating is a huge topic, and especially with the advent of all the apps and all the things, there's so much confusion. There's so much conflict around it. And I think a lot of people ultimately end up avoiding it. But what I found in my own life, and a lot of people I work with, is when you meet that person that is connected in all those ways, the life that you can build together is even greater than the sum of its parts. And you want to make sure that you feel worthy and deserving of finding that person. And everyone I've ever worked with who does that internal work ends up finding that person. And it's not to say it's all unicorns and rainbows after that, but you give yourself the best foundation to continue to grow and evolve together. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions, just type a comment and I'll try to get back to you. And if you think anyone in your life might benefit from hearing this, please send it their way. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.